All right, what's up, everybody? I am super excited about interviewing Marc Manieri. I'm not sure exactly how many times I've interviewed Marc, but feels like a half a dozen, six different times maybe that we've been on Zoom together and we've created content for the community. That sound
It
about
could,
right?
could be. It's been close to a decade, so
It's been a long
some
time.
some version of that, yeah.
Yeah, so to me, Marc is truly one of the great leaders. And really leaders to the leaders. I mean, this is a guy that has coached and led some of the most successful people in the mortgage space, and a lot of people outside the mortgage space. While he's well known in the space, he's even more well known just in leadership circles in business as a whole. I love this topic that you came up with, Marc. But for anybody that's hearing the interview for the first time and they're like, "Who is this guy?" and realize that it's a lot of mortgage professionals and more real estate professionals, we're having. How would you describe yourself and what you do nowadays?
Sure. So I would say that I am a leadership and performance coach, and I work with high performers, especially salespeople. I love salespeople. My career got started in sales. I was working for a training company, and I was selling sponsorships and selling our training and coaching. And I discovered that uh, I really love this. I love being with human beings and discovering what they need and want and figuring out how to help them create that. And so, leadership and performance coaching, and I specialize in the domain of leadership. And we're going to get into it, Dave, but I would say that traditional coaching tends to orient towards strategy and tactics. And while I believe that's important, I believe that there's a lot of different ways to go create outcomes. And what matters most, in my experience, is how you bring yourself to it, the experience that you produce for others that have them compelled to want to work with you. And so that's a big part of the work that I do.
Yeah, I love that. So it's a pretty wild time in the mortgage space. We've gone through a few years now of very challenging macroeconomic market times, high interest rates, just about every challenge a mortgage or real estate professional could get hit with. And now, at least for the real estate industry, uh, they're having a massive change with the NAR settlement. And we're recording this, everyone, on August 13th. So I don't know if this is going to be in the YouTube channel before the NAR settlement hits this Saturday, but if you're watching this live on Facebook right now, we're days away. And what as a leadership coach, what's like just high level, big picture advice you have to mortgage professionals as they're trying to be valuable to real estate professionals from a leadership perspective?
Yeah. Well, I think it'd be useful to define leadership in the way that I hold it. And so the way that I define leadership is creating a new future, one that wasn't going to happen on its own. And in the process, you're fulfilling on or attempting to fulfill on the needs of all parties. And so there's a lot in that. And a couple things that I would break it down, and then I can be more specific to your question, Dave, is in this idea of creating a new future, it's not going to happen without the way that you bring yourself to it. So, number one. And number two, the way you're being in it is you're intentionally looking to discover all the factors at play that impact everyone in your pursuit towards this outcome. And you're looking for everybody to win in it. Everybody wins, and you minimize the cost to anybody. And I find that to be really, really valuable as we look to bring value to people. And so, as if that's 100,000 foot view response, then if we come down to 75,000 feet, one of the things that's critical is you are effective at helping a person get A, clear about what they want, and B, what's in the way. When when you can help a person get clear about what they actually want, and my experience is that people will say things that they want or think that they want, but they're not actually clear. And to be able to take a jumbly mess of sputterings that people say when you ask them, what's important to you? What is it that you want? And they go off on a whole bunch of tangents, and you put it together and can actually lay it back out to them where they can say, yeah, that's it. Or no, it's more like this. And like you actually help them get to the point, man, like that has a person experience you as a leader, and they wouldn't compute it in their mind. Like they wouldn't be saying, a person wouldn't be saying, oh boy, this guy's a real leader for me. Like, no, but they're having an experience of, man, I am like, this person is on point with me. So from a 75,000 foot view, helping a person get really clear and then drilling down deeper, discovering what's in the way of that. And I think that, look, I recognize that as the market changes, as a mortgage professional or real estate professional, your job is to go find where the opportunities are. And there's an element of strategy in that. That's very important. And I acknowledge that. And if we want to say, if we had a bet on what's going to make you the most amount of money, your strategy or being effective with people, I'm putting 100% of my money on being effective with people. You give me any strategy and I'll go be effective with people with it. And I'll make a lot of money, or I'll create a lot of results. So, yeah, is that in part responsive to your question?
Yeah, it is. And I just gonna have to play this a little bit more, because I've been really intentional for a few months now, and doubling down on the intentionality this month at pouring into what I call producing managers. Could be a producing branch manager, it could be a producing regional, but someone who's in the game, they're a player, they're doing loans, but they're also responsible for the success of a team. They have, if it's a branch, they have loan officers. If it's a region, they have branch managers and loan officers. And how can they win? Like whenever there's a change like this going on, like there's going to be winners and there's going to be losers. And I always feel like leadership, wins. But when you start unpacking leadership, at least when I unpack it, I think there's mindset, there's emotional IQ, there's team building and just the rhythms of all that. How do you kind of unpack the different, call it skills, the different categories of leadership? I just want to know, like, because leadership is such a broad topic and you gave a very specific definition, but I could see that someone could have that goal, but if they don't have a growth mindset, and if they don't have a good attitude, like they're not going to be able to do it. And at the same time, they can have all those things, but if they really don't have a high emotional IQ and a great self-awareness, they're not going to be able to coach and work with people. So how do you break up the different categories of leadership?
Yeah. Well, I think you did a pretty good job of it. The things that you said resonate for me. So this idea of your mindset, yes. But for me, leadership, when we say mindset, I would translate that into, it's a specialized term that I use called your way of being. And your way of being, like that's, I'll explain it here, and it takes a little bit of processing, but your way of being is who you are at a given moment of time that produces an experience for someone. An example that, Dave, is you're in a conversation with someone and you're being a certain way, and they say to you, hey, be patient with me. And your response is, I am being patient. Well, your language is one thing, but who you're being is impatient. So really simple example. So yes, mindset, but more your way of being, which an easy way to get access to your way of being is how do people experience you? Do they experience you as patient or impatient? Do they experience you as aware and awake? Do they experience you as, not attentive to, or distracted? Do they experience you as present? So those are just some examples. So that's one thing. You talk about emotional IQ. I think that's a piece of it. So your ability to tune into another person and make sense of their thoughts and their emotions and meet the moment where it's at. I also think that the ability, a key skill for a leader is the ability to discover the factors at play. So in any situation, you want to define the desired outcome. So what's our intention? What's the outcome we're looking for here? And once we know the outcome, an effective leader has the skill set where they could discover the relevant factors at play. And that means they're asking really, really effective, powerful questions by listening to someone and tuning into who they're being, what they're saying, what's coming out of their mouth. And based on what they're saying, I'm now asking more effective questions to get really to the heart of something. So I think that's a really key piece of leadership. And then another element that I would add is language. Everything that gets created is constituted in language. Anything. $1 million in your bank account, more production, a healthier body, an upgraded relationship, whatever. Anything that gets created starts with language. And so a leader has attentiveness to the language that's coming out of their mouth, language that's going on in their head, their body language, their actions, all forms of language. So those are the different elements that I would say for now I would break down as key elements of leadership.
Cool. No, that was really helpful, and I love that way of being. And you always bring a new flair and say things in a way that resonates. So let's get into the headline. I mean, you came up with this headline that the difference between yes and no is leadership. So, like, I have my own assumption as to what that means, but walk us through your thinking on that.
Yeah. Well, we've done well to enter into it already with what we've talked about. So when I work with clients, it's often that people, what they come to me with in a particular coaching session is, hey, I'm getting leads, and I'm noticing that in some of the leads, some of the people that I'm working with, they're just not responding, or they're shopping me. That's pretty common.
They're not calling me back, and I'm getting grinded.
That's right.
Never heard that before.
Yeah. And so we could just use that as a simple example. And when I say the difference between a yes or a no is leadership is how to be effective with a person. And what I find that people want, and what I want to challenge people on, is I find that people want a script. Hey, every time this type of lead shows up and says this, what do I say? And I want to challenge that. I challenge that, and I want to challenge the people listening and then who will listen to this. And that you don't actually serve a person by memorizing some script, because every single person and their situation and the context that is a relevant factor at play is different. And if you want to be effective, you've got to be effective at meeting that unique person and their unique situation in that unique moment. In the way that you do that is you do not come into the conversation scripted. And, look, Dave, I'm aware that this could be a real departure from what people are used to, or maybe what people want to hear. But man, in 15 years of working with high performers who perform superbly and consistently get response, they have an ability to go be with a person and tune into what's going on, ascertain what they've got over there at a person, and based on that discovery, they could go ask the pertinent question that gets to the heart of it, and it keeps that person engaged. And so when I say the difference between a yes or no is leadership, it goes back to the way that we broke down leadership is, can you be awake to what, can you have emotional intelligence to discover, what's going on over there in a person, what's their emotional state, what's their level of intellectual capacity, who are you working with? How are you using your language? Who are you being in it? And can you be effective at discovering the factors at play so that they stay engaged with you? And oh, by the way, if what you discover is like, look, I got a person who's dead set and just committed on getting the best rate, and that's all they care about, that's really great. You could be really efficient with that. And depending on the type of business you do, you could be off that call in 30 seconds. Hey, look, that's not a question that I'm prepared to answer right now because there's a lot of factors and you want an answer that I'm not prepared to give. I don't think we're a great match. And if you want the lowest rate by far, like that's all you're interested in, let me give you a name and a number. It's like, boom, on to the next person. That's a win. That serves the person in front of you. It serves you for not getting dragged around and, selling out to a person, so to speak. So, lot more I could say about this. And is there anything that you hear in it, Dave, that you'd want to unpack further or ask me about further?
Well, I mean, I first of all want to completely validate that in a number of ways, not only my own personal experiences in sales as a performer, but the, hundreds, probably thousands of interviews that I've done with super elite, high performing people. I'll use the language from the Challenger sale. They tailor, they ask great questions, they teach, they do bring value in because they're listening, they're prepared, they're like elite at what they do, and then they lead, they control, and they control the relationships. And so that sequence of tailor, teach, control also came out. I interviewed the #1 buyer agent in America, Ken DeLeon, last week. He's in Silicon Valley. He's going to do over $1 billion in real estate sales in one of the most sophisticated markets. And I had asked him, like, if a mortgage professional wanted to be valuable and approach, someone like yourself in this market, and he said it in his words, but he was like, they should come to me with, they know me. Hey, they should have a known problem that is unique to me. I mean, between what people can learn on social media, what people can learn, it was, and they should articulate a little bit about what they're going to do and how they're going to help me. And anyways, he just, like, I heard what you said, and I heard the #1 realtor in America saying that's how I want to be treated. So I would just, like, we are in a market right now where every real estate in America, or every real estate agent in America, has never been more recruitable. Like they've had a couple tough years. They're having massive changes to their sales process. And for anyone listening to this, if you're a mortgage professional, really working on your leadership skills. And tell me if you agree with this. I don't really think there's any difference between the best salespeople and when you really break down great sales training, like Challenger sales training, it's leadership training. Like they are one of the same. Do you, for the most part, align with that?
For the most part, I would align with that. I think sales is having a person see what you see that they don't see. And if you could be effective at that, it's like, dude, you have somebody who, like, all of a sudden the hierarchy is flipped, right? So you think about it, you're a salesperson, there's a prospect, you want to produce them working with you, and you're coming at them, approaching them, prospecting them. Well, if you could go be with them, effectively discover what they want, help them get clear, discover the relevant factors at play, you're helping them see something that they maybe didn't see and see it the way you see it. Now they're coming to you like, oh yeah, I didn't think about it that way. Or, oh, well, that's interesting. That's unique. It's like they're engaged in you. They want to know more from you. That totally turns the tables. I have a client, high performing mortgage originator, and we were just in a conversation recently, and he just had one of his best production months of the year. And I asked him, where did the business come from? He said, he laughed and he said, from cold calls. This is a guy who's been 15 years in the business. And it's like, he's like, yeah, I had something that we obviously worked on, but he's like, yeah, I realized in COVID, like fish jumped in the boat. In fact, I probably needed a bigger boat. Like I needed a bigger boat. They just jumped in. I didn't have to do any work. Then I got complacent. And here we are in 2024, and I got to do my job called create opportunities. And I started to make cold calls. And what he and I talked about was taking the cold out of a cold call. And taking the cold out of a cold call is going into the call with an intention to serve a person by discovering what would be of value to them, helping them get clear about what it is that they're creating. And like, that's it. That's value right there. Yeah. So he made a cold call, and he's a top producer in the real estate space, and asked great questions, discovered value, and this guy sent him a bunch of deals.
Yeah, love that. And just a push and a reminder, everybody in here, you are either a mortgage coach or you know about Mortgage Coach. Like it's that is what the total cost analysis. It's just it's a tool to help you paint a picture of clarity so that a consumer can understand. It's fairly complex, different loan programs, net worth over time, what's the cost difference over 3 years and 5 years. It's just it's a leadership tool so that you can give clarity to people. You can visualize options for people. So yeah, we call it a sales tool. I think a lot of people look at what we do and, oh, that's sales effectiveness. No, it's leadership. It's a leadership tool. It's a leader effectiveness platform.
Well, one other thought that just came to me. It's a very specific riff on what we were saying, but to me it's relevant. And again, it's a challenge. I believe that we've become, when I say we, sales industry in general, that we've become lulled into we've been lulled into the illusion that technology is more efficient and therefore it's always more useful and more productive when it comes to lead gen. Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, I think there's an absolute place for it. But what my challenge to people would be is if you're about to send a text message, that means you've got their phone number. And I would challenge you to stop your text message and dial the phone. And you go get good at dialing the phone and produce an experience for somebody. Dude, it's like it never happens anymore, man. It never happens anymore. And that right away sets you apart from everybody else, in my experience.
Yeah. Well, my only not pushback on that, but I think we live in a society now where everybody has different ways in which they use technology. And I know for me, what would create an experience that someone was selling to me would be a multi-channel approach where they've tried to call me. And so salespeople take that advice, like call. Not a lot of people do it anymore, but send a text and are you available in the next, few minutes? And it's simple. When's your next opening? The combination of text and call. Send a voice memo. Mm-hmm. Do a video. Like if you can't get the person and do this, put your phone against the wall and do a 30-second video. It's the blend of different communications. I know if someone wanted to get a hold of me, and they used LinkedIn Messenger, I probably never going to see it because it's like a spam folder. At the same time, I know a lot of people that communicate with these different PM tools, private message tools. I just, like I'm a text guy. What are your thoughts on just multi-channel reach out? And then also I do want to drill down on how do we take the cold out of cold call? You went through that pretty quick. And I would love just a little more meat on the bones with multi-channel approach for people that you're coaching. And, what's the whole playbook on how to take the cold out of cold calling?
Yeah, the multi-channel approach it's smart. I mean, I'm a believer in experimentation. I believe there is no the answer. There's only what works and what's effective. That's going to be different for the salesperson. It's going to be different for the prospect. And you've got to go meet a person and meet a moment where they and it are at. And so, yes, to multi-channel, I see the value and the strategy in that. What I would invite a person listening to this to think about is tune into your body and how do you feel about sending a text versus you're going to make a cold call. And my guess is there's a little bit more discomfort with the cold call. And my question is, well, why is that? And my response to that would be because you're not practiced in it. And so that could be a good segue into taking the cold out of cold calling. Look, it occurs to me the awkwardness that a person may perceive, Dave, in a cold call comes from one's own imagination that is not being used in their favor. Meaning, you're sitting there about to call somebody and like what's going on in your mind is, oh, what am I going to say? Or, oh, am I catching them at the right time? Or, oh, I don't want to be intrusive. Or, oh, they're so busy. Or fill in the blank. It's like that language is not useful.
Right.
And so taking the cold out of cold calling is taking the focus off of you and your discomfort and creating a focus on them by helping a person get clear about what it is that they want and what's valuable to them. It's like, Dave, hey, is Marc Manieri calling? Listen, I have been a fan of yours for several years. You do so much in the mortgage space. I know we don't know each other, but I see you as somebody that I could bring some value to. And I wonder if you're willing to take 3 minutes and hear out why I think I could bring you some value. And if we have some traction in that, great. And if we don't, then we could be complete. Yeah. Does this work for you right now? Or would it be better if I caught you after your appointment ends or whatever you're into right now? It's like, I don't know. I just made that up, but it just comes right out of me. And yeah, I got a lot of practice in it.
Yeah. Well, you build up a lot of calluses, like when you just go after it. I mean, if I want to get someone on the phone, I just have this mindset. I can get that person on the phone. I'm gonna call them. I'm gonna email them. I'm gonna text them. I'm gonna try to get a referral, and it's gonna be on point. My advice matters, and I'm gonna get to them. And I do believe the best salespeople all have that in common. So real quick, I have a couple more questions, but before I run out of the time here, I'd love to know if someone wanted to experience you as a coach. I know you do workshops. I know you do some one-on-one coaching, but what is the best way for people to follow you, and what are the best ways for someone who wants to go deeper with you? What are the opportunities?
Sure. Well, the opportunities for me are one-on-one coaching and depending on where they are as a leader in their business, I work with entire companies. So I could coach a leadership team. I could train an entire sales team. So that's all possible. We would just need to discover what is going to make the most sense. And then my partner and I lead a 3-day leadership course where we teach people the fundamentals of our methodology of leadership that I've put a little bit of language here to today. So I could give you an email address and a link to that if that would be useful, or
Just give it a shout out. I'll make sure anybody watch this in the YouTube channel. The link will be down below.
Okay.
Folks that are watching this in Facebook, go to our YouTube channel, get the link there, and also get the link in comments here on Facebook later on.
Yeah, so Marc Manieri, MarcMan like Nancy, IERI, Marc Manieri @gmail.com. And then that you could message me for anything. And then our leadership course is Ontocore, ONTOCORE, ontocore.com/create powerful, one word, /create powerful.
Love it. Well, I will get a link so people can just click on it down below, go deeper. So let's just kind of workshop a little bit right now, just so we can give the community a little tactic.
Yeah.
They want to get a meeting with a realtor right now, and they want to use your take the cold out of cold call. Talk directly to someone that is like you were taught your LO that had a record-breaking month and has been getting after it. Like, speak directly, give the community a little bit of a pep talk and a little bit of advice on how to get a meeting with that whale that you've either talked yourself out of it or you haven't been able to get that meeting. Let's rock that out.
Yeah. Well, I would start by asking a mortgage originator, what are they committed to? So what are the outcomes that they're looking to produce? And what are the strategies that they've identified? And if generating business and opportunities through the real estate community is one of them, then man, reaching out to realtors ought to be something that you're doing on a regular basis. And so I would then ask, what does serving look like to you? What does it mean to you? I think that's an important question to unpack. Look, I recognize that there's, mortgage originators have come to me and said, man, I wrestle with the real estate community because I see so much value in prospecting and partnering, and yet I find, loyalty's tough, or, I find challenges with it. And it's like, well, what are you committed to? What kind of a relationship are you committed to being in? And so I want to discover that. And going into a realtor cold call, man, you have to be clear that you're committed to serving a person and helping them achieve their goals, and believing that you could do that and having a value proposition for it. So what are you committed to as a mortgage originator? Are you rooted in service? Are you committed to helping your partners actually achieve their goals? And if you are, what does that look like? Like, what is your value proposition? And by the way, your value proposition has got to be beyond your rate and your service. It must be, because guess what everybody else is saying? And look, here's the best part of what I've been talking about in this domain of leadership. You don't have to have, you could, but you don't have to have a tactical element to your value prop, meaning you don't have to be the firm that pays for closing costs, or you don't have to have a gimmick. You can just be authentic. You can be astute. You can be effective at helping a person get clear about what's important to them and what their obstacles are, and demonstrate your ability to help them overcome them. And that's all you need. So inside of what I've just said, Dave, is there is mindset, there's being clear, there's being committed to service, and then there's using your language in a way that can demonstrate a value proposition that would have somebody be interested or open to spending more time with you. So what do you see in that? And is there more to unpack in that could be more tangible?
Dig it. No, I love it. I don't think we need to get down, because I think you answered that a lot differently than a lot of other folks I did, where they'll give a script or they'll give a specific approach. And I loved how you just work on emotionally connecting with that person, finding out the problems they were having, and push everybody who's listening to this, be more effective at how you vision cast your value. Help people get clear on what they want. And by the way, just that conversation could help a lot of realtors right now if they could truly feel heard, and you could be part of be a human being that helped them get clear on what they want. And right now, I know they want buyers to see their value, agree to compensate them for their value, and sign an agreement. So I would just push all the mortgage professionals. How are you helping them do that? And I can tell you firsthand right now, when I interviewed the #1 realtor in America last week, he's like, not one loan officer. I've got some great loan officers, but no one has really come to me with that. The week before that, I interviewed Tina Bellevue, who's one of the top agents in the Baltimore, Maryland market. And she's like, they're calling me with programs, they're calling me with rates. I do know rates are coming down. But she's like, no one is really like, how are you going to help me get an agreement signed? How are you going to help me have a better conversation with my consumers around, they got to pay me and they got to sign a plan. So
Yeah.
everybody, I hope you got value. I hope this helped you think about leadership in a broader sense.
Let me say one thing about it.
Bring it.
Yeah. The question that came to my mind as you just shared what you shared is, if I'm calling a real estate agent, like what an incredible, like this legislation that's coming down, what an incredible opening to be in a conversation with any real estate agent. And what occurs to me is I dial the phone on a cold call to a real estate agent. Hey, Dave with XYZ Real Estate Company. It's Marc Manieri from ABC Mortgage Company. How are you? Great. Hey, listen, the purpose for my call is I have known about you for a while. And my sense is that you likely have a number of mortgage people that you work with. And I love partnering with my real estate agents and helping them produce really big goals for them and their team. And it was just time for me to give you a call. And what I'm really curious about is this new NAR ruling. How is that for you? Like, I really am curious, how are you navigating that and what is your intention around that? It's like, I could be right into a conversation. Like, I don't know how that lands for anybody else. That just came right off, I just came out of my mind. But like, I don't have any awkwardness in that. That's like, authentically, I'm curious to know, how is it for them? Are they nervous about it? Are they excited about it? And if so, why? What are they doing about it? Great, man. I would love to sit with you to share with you how I've partnered with some of my other agent partners on this very subject and how they're already getting deals signed. Like, would that be of use to you?
Yeah. And so first of all, we did get a little script out of you there. We got to do
Well,
here.
look, don't take it as gospel, but here, like,
No, it's
yeah.
experiment with that. And I also want y'all to experiment with knowing that I've interviewed some really elite people, and they do not feel that the lending community is showing them how they're going to help them. Like, you could test, hey, I say everything that Mark said, because it was connecting, it was authentic, it was unique. I do not think that is how the typical loan officer approaches most big agents. And then go into, I don't know if you've gone through this yet, but are any of the lenders that you're currently working with, and I know you have some great lenders that close on time, close smooth, have great programs, that have they shown you any strategies Or are they helping you with your buyers communicate your compensation and helping consumers understand how to pay you, regardless of whether the seller is going to pay you? Is that something that you're currently doing with the lending partners that you have? And whether you use me or not, I would just love to share how blank, maybe name drop, how blank and blank and blank are doing that. Would you have some time to chat about it? So test what Mark and I just brought you. I'm making more of the assumptive, they have a problem that I can solve, and I'm being a little more direct with it. But I know I would be experimenting with that talk track right now.
Yeah.
All
And
right,
look,
brother. Oh, go ahead.
no. Well, I was just gonna say, I love the question, how is that for you? Because it's really open-ended and it's really authentically curious. And it's like, whatever they give me back, I can work with. If they're afraid of it, great. I got something to work with. If they're crushing it, it's great. I got something to work with. Tell me how you're doing that. That's incredible. I love it. Yeah, I love working with my agent partners to contribute to, have something be scaled. So man, I'd love to talk to you about that. It's like I can work with anything in the response to the question, how is that for you? How are you navigating that? So just an arrow in the quiver.
Yeah. Well, guys, make sure you follow this guy. He's given you his email. We'll have a link to learn more about his workshops and coaching services. Very special coach to the coaches, someone who specializes in performance and leadership with high-performing professionals in a lot of different industries. Anything you want to close it out with before we wrap it?
Man, I just appreciate you, Dave. I love our relationship. It occurs to me that there's leadership that's been demonstrated on both sides of this, and it's what has us stay friends and co-creators over a decade. So thank you for who you are. I appreciate you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you too. And I can still remember, I think it was a decade or so ago, the way he reached out to me, the way we built our relationship. I mean, truly special. I mean, this is a man that walks his talk. So, dude, I really love the conversation. For anyone watching this, if you have not already subscribed to the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel, hit subscribe so that you get alerts when we put new content out there. If you are not following savageinsights.com, that's where I am posting all the newest content. I'm interviewing Tom Ferry tomorrow. I got Scriptapalooza next week with Phil M. Jones, the author of Exactly What to Say. That's at the very top. Check it out and make sure you subscribe to the Savage Insights text group. A couple times a week, I will put out a message, and I will definitely be promoting this through Savage Insights. This is something that I just think is great leadership. So take care, everybody. This is a wrap. Thanks again, brother.
Thank you.